Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS consumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Buyer's remorse is a hell of a thing. I've had buyer's remorse. I've got a little bit of a cowboy boot addiction. Kind of the Mel DeMarcos of cowboy boots. I can't tell you how many times I've walked out with a pair of rough outs. Another pair of rough outs. Why didn't I get that broken in pair of lizards?
What are you talking about?
What do you mean, what am I talking about? I'm talking about cowboy boots. What are you talking about?
I don't think anybody in here knows anything you just said. Lizards, whatever.
Everybody that need to know knows.
Okay, sorry.
All right? You know what I'm talking about out there. What I'm talking about, Cerruti, running the show, Nuno riding shotgun, and Bubba's back on the board, is I'm talking about buyer's remorse here, man. I'm talking about wishing you had got something different the minute you walk out of the store. I'm talking about once the purchase is complete and you've tried on the shoes, maybe even when you're still waffling in the doorway, you're looking back with longing glances at the thing you left on the shelf, the item you passed on, man. I'm talking about buyer's remorse here. I'm talking about Sam Darnold. I'm talking about Saquon Barkley. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can join the conversation, 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. I'm going to be talking about why more teams in the NFL don't have the stones to go for it on fourth down or to put somebody away when they've got them on the ropes. I'm going to be talking about for the brand, the man, the myth, the punter, Pat McAfee, will join us a little bit later on the Will Cain Show. And we're going to talk about what's real and what's fake 1 week into the season. But we start in New York City, and we start with Monday Night Football because it's a New York story. Sam Darnold was absolutely lights out in his rookie debut last night. He was 16 of 21. He had, get this, underline it, highlight it, put it in italics if you have to, a quarterback rating of 116.8. Let's just round it up and call it 117 for good measure. He blew it out of the water. Sam Darnold was accurate. He was throwing it downfield. He averaged over 9 yards a pass. He was throwing it deep, pinpoint, and with anticipation. And by the way, for what it's worth, a moment about anticipation. Bubba, you weren't on the show yesterday, and I've done a lot of soul searching. What's wrong with the Dallas Cowboys? What's wrong with Dak Prescott? I put our crack minds in the ESPN research department on this. I said, something's bugging me. How long is Dak holding the ball? How long is he standing in the pocket? I found this out. Here's some numbers that you can apply to any quarterback in the NFL. The average over the last 2 years is 2.5 seconds. That's how long a quarterback holds the ball in the pocket. Dak Prescott over the last 2 years has held the ball for 2.7 seconds, 2.69 to be precise. On Sunday against the Carolina Panthers, Dak Prescott held the ball for 3.1 seconds. That's an eternity. Yes, the Cowboys' offensive line was bad, but Dak Prescott held onto the ball forever. He had very little anticipation, throwing the ball when guys were coming out of their cuts. He was waiting for people to be obviously open. See it, throw it. That will not work in the NFL. And one start into his career, Sam Darnold was showing that he throws with anticipation, ahead of the route, ahead of where the receiver would be. Sam Darnold For any right-minded person out there, Sam Darnold should be giving New York Giants fans today a case of buyer's remorse. They will regret the day, possibly for a decade, that they took Saquon Barkley over Sam Darnold. Bottom line is this. Saquon Barkley will be good. He's a good running back. He had 100 yards over the weekend, but honestly, almost 70 of it was on one run. It was 2 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards, into the throat of the defense, into the throat of the defense, and then break it open. Saquon Barkley is going to be good, but not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10. You take a franchise quarterback over a franchise running back. You would rather have 10 years of a good quarterback over 10 years of a great running back. I liked everything about Darnold's start, including the pick 6. How'd that go for you, Sam?
After that moment, it was, okay, now how do I respond? And I think on the sideline, someone tell me, hey, Brett Favre's first throw was a pick. So I was just trying to bounce back as good as I could. And I knew that I didn't have to do anything, outside of the ordinary. I just had to continue to be myself, get to my checkdowns, take the shots when they're there, and the game will come to me, and that's kind of what happened.
The resilience, the confidence to come back from your opening throw of your debut as a professional football player and throwing a pick 6, to come back and play the way Sam Darnold did, that's franchise quarterback material. That's giving Giants fans heartburn, if not buyer's remorse. Here's ESPN NFL analyst and on the call last night for Monday Night Football, Brian Griese.
Saquon Barkley is going to be an excellent player. There's no question. But I think that Sam Darnold will prove to be the steal of this draft at the third position. And, yeah, I do think that the New York Giants will be kicking themselves for not taking him.
You would rather have, as we've talked about on this show for several months, you'd rather have, honestly, an average quarterback in the NFL than a great running back. A competent quarterback can do more for you than a great running back. You'd rather have Sam Darnold than Saquon Barkley. That's my opening take, brought to you by Firestone Complete Auto Care, keeping cars running newer, longer, whatever you drive a Firestone. And then there was the other side of the ball. The New York Jets won that game 48-17 against the Detroit Lions. The Lions were absolutely atrocious. Matt Stafford was awful. He threw 4 interceptions. And new coaches on our week 1 of the NFL, new coaches went 0-7. Jon Gruden, Matt Patricia, Matt Nagy, Steve Wilks, Frank Reich, Pat Shurmur, and Mike Vrabel all lost their first games. And it raises a fascinating question with Matt Patricia's Detroit Lions playing so poorly. What's up with the Bill Belichick coaching tree? What's up with the guys who have been under Bill Belichick? What's with the guys he's groomed? Because listen to the names, and you tell me how much success they've acquired as professional football coaches. Matt Patricia, Romeo Crennel, Eric Mangini, Al Groh, Josh McDaniels. We'll see about Bill O'Brien, and Nick Saban is possibly the greatest college football coach of all time, but wasn't much with the Miami Dolphins. The Bill Belichick coaching tree has been poor. Now, maybe it's because, as Eric Mangini has famously said, everybody tries to be Bill Belichick. Maybe it's because he shoulders all the responsibility and all the leadership. Maybe it's because he's a genius, and genius is singular. Maybe it's because Tom Brady doesn't get enough credit for exactly how much success the New England Patriots have. But that Bill Belichick coaching tree, that's nothing compared to other coaches out there. In fact, that's nothing compared to other coaches who are coaching in the NFL today. Tell you what, coming up, I'll give you one of the best coaching trees of all time. He's coaching in the NFL today, and he makes Belichick's coaching tree look like a joke. Plus, I was impressed with Jon Gruden, despite the Raiders' opening loss. That's next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030.
Aaron Donald's back and Ndamukong Suh's back. The key to leaving Marcus Peters, they turned the ball over.
Marcus Peters in his hometown, a pick six to say goodnight. Outstanding second half game plan by getting the football to their main weapon, and that's Todd Gurley from the 19. Touchdown LA.
ESPN LA 710.
Already with an offense that can score at a very high clip.
You can almost see the life coming out of the Raiders sideline.
I know it's the cool thing. I know it's the popular take. I know what I'm supposed to say. I'm supposed to say Jon Gruden's out of his league. The NFL's passed him by. But that's not what I saw last night. That's not what I saw in the Raiders-Rams game on Monday Night Football. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Before I tell you the most impressive coaching tree in the NFL, let's go to Justin from Watertown, New York. You're on the Will Cain Show.
Hey, Will Cain, is Justin from Watertown, New York. How you doing?
I'm good.
All right, so buyer's remorse, that's totally false. Saquon Barkley's an instant starter for the New York Giants, and that's what they got. They got a guy who was able to explode on the Jags defense, which is about the best defense in the NFL. And you cannot say that Sam Darnold would have been an instant starter on the New York Giants. Eli played great. With the exception of a couple missed throws in the end zone to Odell Beckham Jr., he played fantastic. You had drop passes, missed blocks. That was the only reasons why the failure of the Giants against Week 1 with the Jags.
Justin from Watertown. Is the goal to get an instant starter? Is that what you do when you draft in the NFL? Is it, if you have a long snapper that starts Week 1 of the NFL, is he better than a quarterback like Pat Mahomes that has to sit for a year?
No, not technically, but with Saquon Barkley...
But that's just the argument you chose to use a moment ago.
The Giants needed Saquon Barkley. We needed a guy like that who's going to be explosive in the back of the field. We've been missing that for a long time.
If Sam Darnold is lighting the NFL up for the next 10 years, if 7 years from now Sam Darnold's in discussions of one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL, do you think there's going to be anything to save you from that long look in the mirror? Do you think there's anything Saquon Barkley could do to possibly make you feel better about that pit in your stomach?
You're arguing what ifs. There's the potential of that happening, but we're talking about now. We're only talking about Week 1. Sam Darnold had one great game. You cannot say that it's going to happen for the rest of the season. No. Barkley had a great game, and he showed his true talent. And he showed that he can be very effective for the New York Giants. And with Eli Manning still playing well, we forget that he's the Iron Man. The only thing that was biggest weakness was the offensive line.
All right, Justin, thanks. I think when we arrived at the Eli still playing well portion of the interview, it was time to move on. The bottom line is this, man. You see it as a slight to the Giants. You see it as a slight to Saquon Barkley. What I will tell you is this. They both had decent. I think Sam Darnold's debut was better than decent. They both had good debuts. What I'm here to tell you is if Sam Darnold's career over the next 10 years ends up being above average and Saquon Barkley's ends up being great, Giants fans will have lost the pick. You should have buyer's remorse. But what I'm telling you is after one game, I can see it. Sam Darnold's got it. He's a franchise quarterback. And that was clear to anybody that watched last night. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Bill Belichick's coaching tree doesn't look so hot. I went over that in the last segment. Matt Patricia, just one game in, and it is just one game in, joins a long list of guys come out of the Bill Belichick tree who have not fared so well. Romeo Crennel, Eric Mangini, Al Groh, Josh McDaniels, Nick Saban as a professional, and Bill O'Brien. But over across the AFC, still in the NFL, there's a coaching tree that should blow your hair back. And that's the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, former coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. It's Andy Reid. Listen to the names groomed under Andy Reid. It's guys like Doug Peterson, Sean McDermott, Matt Nagy, Ron Rivera, John Harbaugh, Todd Bowles. Two other coaches that didn't fare as well, Brad Childress and Steve Spagnuolo. Andy Reid has produced Super Bowl winning coaches. Coaches have held jobs for long periods of time in the NFL, like Ron Rivera. Guys who are on the come up, like Sean McDermott. He's got guys across this league that have proven to be innovative and successful head coaches. Doug Peterson and John Harbaugh have Super Bowls to their claim. The truth of the matter is, Andy Reid is a branch on the Mike Holmgren tree, and Mike Holmgren is a branch on the Bill Walsh tree, but we can play this game forever. Bill Belichick is a branch on the Bill Parcells tree. But Andy Reid, that's where you want to go to find your next quarterback of the future. Last night, the Los Angeles Rams beat the Oakland Raiders, and there are some, like Ryan Clark, ESPN's NFL analyst, are wondering, is Jon Gruden past his expiration date?
You didn't see the offense evolve throughout the game. Most teams script the first 10 or 15 plays. It's what you walk through on Saturday before the games, or in this case, on Sundays before the game. And as the game went along, you didn't see Derek Carr have opportunities to push the ball down the field. Jared Cook was the number one targeted receiver. We didn't get to see opportunities for Jordy Nelson and Amari Cooper outside. Whether that was by design because of Talib and Peters, I don't know. But the game passes you by a little bit. I remember when Joe Gibbs came back to the Washington Redskins. Obviously, it was a longer period of time he was out of the game. It took him a while to catch up with the speed of the game, catch up with the different changes in offensive play. And I think we saw a little bit of that last night.
That's not what I saw last night. What I saw from the Oakland Raiders in a losing effort, granted, but what I saw from the Oakland Raiders last night was a team that came out fighting, a team that came out hitting, a team that came out playing hard. Did you see that opening touchdown drive with Marshawn Lynch when he gets held up about 5 yards short of the end zone, but keeps churning, and the entire Raiders offensive line helps push him across the goal line? Or did you see Jared Cook absolutely lay the wood to Aqib Talib? Those Raiders were serious, man. They were playing hard. They were putting shoulder pads into people. And they were in the game well into the third quarter. They were in the game with a team that most people are predicting to be a Super Bowl favorite. Jon Gruden knew it. They were still in the game.
Well, the score really wasn't indicative, I think, of the game. We threw a pick six late in the game. You know, we're trying to get back in and make it a one-possession game with just a few minutes left in the football game. But go ahead. I'll answer your question any way I can.
Do you think there was a different talent level in this game?
No, I mean, I'm not going to get into all that. I'm going to look at the film, and we got a short week getting ready for the Broncos. We'll see what the film says tomorrow morning.
I know that sometimes I have a contrarian streak. I know that sometimes when everybody agrees on one take, one conclusion, I can find myself gravitating towards the other side of the room. I know that the popular side to be on, the common take to have, was that Jon Gruden isn't going to be any good. I'm going to give you another one, another take that wasn't very cool. Herm Edwards, head coach of Arizona State. We're only 2 games into the season, but everybody laughed at Herm getting hired as head coach of Arizona State. Well, Arizona State's 2-0. And Herm, this past weekend, led the Sun Devils to a victory over top 15 program, Michigan State. Jon Gruden was another one that everybody laughed at. I'm looking at what I saw last night, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to tell you this Raiders team is a playoff contender. I'm not going to tell you they're great. But Jon Gruden's going to have that thing going in the right direction. The Raiders are going to be all right under Jon Gruden. That's Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, Colts punter Pat McAfee. Former Colts punter, because now, he's for the brand. Now he's a multimedia mogul, right? He's all over the place. I'm actually a big fan of this guy. Pat McAfee, what?
Free agent.
Free agent media or free agent punter?
Everything.
We should ask him. Which one, if they come at the same time, which deal do you take first? Next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Did you know ADT can design and install a smart home just for you? A new smart home at your service, customized for your lifestyle. ADT can even close your garage door while you're at your kid's soccer practice to help keep criminals and critters on the sidelines. Now, that's what I call goal-keeping service. It's all controlled from the ADT app or the sound of your voice and backed by 24/7 protection. Visit ADT.com/smart to learn more about how ADT can help keep your home safe and smart.
It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can call. You can talk with me. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Joining me now, former Colts punter Pat McAfee on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Pat, man, good to have you. I'm not in that media type way where you just give the BS, say this to make it nice, but I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Well, I appreciate that so much. I love Pennzoil as well, so I'm excited to be on their hotline.
That's good. They'll appreciate it.
I just got a chance to check you out on the Twitter. You're a handsome dude. Look at you. No reason you should be on radio, Will. Thanks for having me on, though. This is an honor of a lifetime here.
Well, what's that? What? We're on TV, too. Oh, you can put on your TV right now, Pat. ESPN News. You can see me, and you can look at me a little more, and I can see your still picture. I'm really jealous of your calves, though. I watch you on your Twitter show, and all this. I mean, you've got just outstanding calves. I mean, what, you got like a 36-inch calf?
Well, it's a great question, Will, and only the greats would really recognize that. I grew up in Pittsburgh, where everything you're either walking uphill or downhill. And to be honest, hindsight, it really paid off with my kicking of a ball profession, to be honest. But I thank you. My legs are good. I got good, like Greek god-like legs, but my upper body is that of an adolescent. So that is why the punting position was perfect for me.
If a deal, hey, I'm familiar with your career, both as a professional football player and at Barstool, and now out on your own as a media mogul entrepreneur. If a deal came right now, Pat, if an NFL team came calling, maybe they are calling you right now, I don't know. They want you back, they want you punting, or the just perfect media opportunity, which I don't know what that is. You can tell me what it is. If they came along at the same time, which one do you take?
It's all situational here, right? I don't have a Super Bowl ring. I got a chance to kick off a Super Bowl my rookie year until Drew Brees and his dumb baby beat us in Miami. So we had the lead going into half, and then an onside kick, then this, then that. Drew Brees, hero, Super Bowl champion. If a situation arose where it appeared as if there was a chance to maybe have a Super Bowl ring for the rest of my life, and I was able to work the schedule out a little bit, which would never happen for somebody who's just a punter, I think I would definitely take a look at it. A couple teams have reached out to me and, like, very light conversations, testing my interest, piquing my interest to see if I have anything. And I'll kick a ball around every once in a while just in case I end up flat broke and I have to fall back on that. But the media opportunity is one that I'm really enjoying right now, to be honest. I love just getting a chance to chit-chat with my friends on a regular basis about football and how much I love football and fourth downs, and especially it's just this has been a real highlight of everything is this media world, and I'm enjoying literally every single step of it.
Oh, you're doing a good job at it. Former Colts punter Pat McAfee here on the Will Cain Show. So give me your biggest, what blew your hair back the most week one? Was it Pat Mahomes? Was it Michael Dixon for the brand? What was it that you loved the most from week one?
Hey, Aussie, oi, oi, oi. Michael Dixon is a stud, changing the game for the brand for sure. Johnny Hecker, late night last night, also putting on a show. I think there was a lot of good that happened for the brand around the league. But Tyreek Hill is a lightning rod of a human when he gets onto a football field. I said it last year whenever I first got into this whole media talking world. Shane Leckler, good friend of mine, greatest punter of all time. My last year in the NFL, I'm chit-chatting with him in the warm-ups. And he always gives me a case of beer whenever we travel back home. He's literally a friend of mine, really good friend of mine. And as soon as I walk up to him in the pregame, I'm like, what's up, GOAT, you know? And he's like, have you played the Kansas City Chiefs yet? And I said, no, why? He said, when you play the Kansas City Chiefs, you take the snap and you punt it directly out of bounds. Tyreek Hill is a different animal than anything I've ever seen before. And that's coming from Shane Leckler, who punted in this league literally since it was in the 1970s. He's punted to everybody. Devin Hester, Deshaun Jackson, you name it. All the speedies and the incredible returners. He said that guy's just a different animal, and then you just watch him grow, and you watch Andy Reid get more comfortable with him, and you just kind of watch what's happening over there, and then you put the cannon having Patrick Mahomes behind center. That could be some electric stuff. But what stole the weekend for me was Todd Haley attempting to fight a cornerback after he and Jarvis Landry got into it. That game in Cleveland was electric and awesome to see.
Do you, this is a great debate, I think, personally, for me on this show. Do you love or do you hate Todd Haley? Like, I'm right now, I'm trending towards love Todd Haley. Where are you?
So I'm from Pittsburgh, right? So my whole family is from Pittsburgh. All my friends are from Pittsburgh. A lot of Yinzers. Todd Haley was not loved there. There was always rumors flying around about what he did in his personal life. He got into a fight at Tequila Cowboy, which is a pretty notable bar downtown Pittsburgh. He got kicked out of there. He broke his hip. Everybody,
likable.
It's kind of been, it was kind of a bad go for Todd Haley in Pittsburgh. But then I watched Hard Knocks.
Right.
And he just became this character that I absolutely loved. Him making fun of Carl just for having the name Carl, him chewing out Jarvis Landry, him almost fighting Hugh Jackson in what seemed to be the first coaches meeting. I'm a big fan of Todd Haley. I wish I could buy a Todd Haley jersey, to be honest.
There we go. He won me over just like he won you over. By the way, just so you know, I wasn't totally BSing, talking to former Colts punter Pat McAfee here on the Will Cain Show. I watched one of your latest shows. You were talking about Tyreek Hill. You were talking about how hard it is to punt to somebody like that. But you said people don't realize how difficult it is to punt out of bounds. And when I heard that, I thought, now look, I'm no NFL punter, but it seems to me that what would be hard was keeping it inbounds. Like everything outside of this one area you can punt it towards, but in between the lines is the only requirement. I would think like punting out of bounds might not be difficult.
Well, so I can understand that hitting 100-yard space, which is what the out-of-bounds sideline would be on a field, would be a lot easier than hitting 53 1/3, which is the width of a field. But whenever you're punting, this is a decision being made that we are going to turn the ball over in a reasonable fashion. We're going to at least pick up 40, 45 yards of field position. We are going to move a little bit, set our defense up field position. If you look at the stats, if you win the field position battle, you're normally going to win the game. So punting is a big deal whenever you look at it. So when you're talking about kicking the ball out of bounds now, instead of having 100-yard space, if you're trying to move the ball 40 to 45 yards net, you got a 5-yard space you're trying to hit it out of bounds. Plus, you got absolute avatars coming off the edge attempting to block your punts. Up in the middle where the pocket is, there's a lot more space. So you're dealing with a lot of risk in a pretty tight little area. Great punters can do it. But when you're talking about Tyreek Hill, one shank and you have a 20-yard net, all of a sudden you're setting your defense up for failure.
All right, man, look, I'd love to have you on more. If you can take time away from your new media mogul burgeoning development, I'd love to have you on some. By the way, did you know there's a whole punter pipeline coming out of Australia now? Or maybe just a Dixon. Maybe it's just a Dixon family pipeline because his cousin's punting at UT.
Yeah, well, you got Brad Wing, Jordan Berry. I think the guy from the Jets is also Dixon as well. Them all them rugby players, they just grow up kicking the ball and they're big lads as well, so they're getting into it a lot. I would absolutely love to come on this show. I am busy though. I think this is something you'll be interested in.
You're setting me up. You're bracing me. You're bracing me for disappointment.
No. I'm wide open for this show anytime. With a man with your hair and your tan, I'm always. But every Thursday, 11:50 a.m., okay, American Standard Time, 11:50. There is something running on my social media platforms called Beat Pat McAfee, where my bookie, which is a gambling website, sets odds on me being able to accomplish tasks. Last Thursday it was NBA three-pointers in 5 minutes. The over-under was 18.5. I hit 25, hammered the over. Everybody made money. This Thursday I'm throwing a football 30 yards into a garbage can. 5 minutes worth of attempts. The over-under is 6.9. Nice. I think I'm going to hammer the over. That happens Thursday, 11:50.
5 minutes.
My bookie. My bookie, P Pat McAfee. Yes, sir.
5 minutes.
Get your bet in. Get your bet in.
I don't mean to be a jerk, but I think I'm taking the under. At 30 yards, trash can. All right, I'll be watching, Pat. How about that? I'll be watching.
My lady, who I sleep with every night, she's also taking the under. So you're in good company.
All right, man. That's Pat McAfee. Appreciate your time, bud.
Thank you, Will.
Former Colts punter and host of all kinds of shows on Twitter. And I don't know, go find him. He's all over social media. That's Pat McAfee. All right, coming up, the Bears lost the game on Sunday night because they kicked a field goal to go up 6 with 3 minutes still on the clock against Aaron Rodgers. They showed no, let's call them stones. That's next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Well, let's go to the calls for a moment. Peter from New Hampshire. You're on the show, Peter. What's up?
Yo, what's going on, Will? I got to give Sam Darnold credit. He had a good game. You know, he went into Ford Field. They played a good game. But I don't think you can call him a franchise quarterback after one game. You know, the Lions, in the first quarter, Stafford didn't even have a yard. I think that was the first time he's done that in a few years. And then in the third quarter, after Lee gets that interception, the crowd was out of it, the defense was out of it, and the game got out of hand. We got Dolphins, then Browns, then Jaguars, then Broncos for Darnold. I think the Jags and the Broncos are going to give him a test. So we're going to see. We're going to see if you're right about that franchise quarterback.
Look, man, I appreciate the call, Peter. I fully recognize that I'm in week 1 of Sam Darnold's career. But honestly, have you not watched enough quarterbacks, enough football in your life to see when you're looking on the field whether or not some guy has it and some guy doesn't? Baker Mayfield hasn't even started his first NFL game yet. And I'm fairly confident. I feel good about saying Baker Mayfield has it. Watching Sam Darnold last night, Sam Darnold has it. And if you have a quarterback that has it, you'll take that over any running back. The Giants will regret the day they took Saquon Barkley over Sam Darnold. It was approximately 3 minutes to go left in the game on Sunday Night Football. It was with the Bears driving, seemingly to beat the Green Bay Packers. It was when the Bears were about to put a field goal on the board to go up 6 points. When I realized the Packers are going to win this game. The Bears kicked that field goal. They converted. They went up 23-17 with 3 minutes to go. And anybody watching it, certainly Chicago Bears fans, certainly Dallas Cowboy fans, saw that moment, saw the time left on the clock, and realized, well, that's it. You're about to get Aaron Rodgers. The Green Bay Packers are going to win this game. And of course, they did. Final score, 24-23, Green Bay Packers. The question is, why? Why kick the field goal? Why do what everybody knows will not be enough? Why put yourself in a position to lose to Aaron Rodgers like everybody else has? Why play to avoid failure instead of securing success? You have to put that monster out of its misery when you have the chance. Matt Nagy, who I thought was a great coach for the first half of that ball game for the Chicago Bears, in the second half absolutely played to avoid failure. As many has pointed out, he went into the 4-minute drill with about 30 minutes left on the clock. His play calling got tight, where in the first half, it was creative and putting the Packers defense on its heels. In the second half, Mitch Trubisky was throwing the ball into the flats to receivers and running backs for 1 yard, 2 yards. Khalil Mack didn't play much in the second half. Everything the Bears were doing was to try to hold on. And with a 20-point lead, you might think you can hold on. But anybody that's seen Aaron Rodgers do the things he's done realized they're going to win this game. At the point that it's 20-17, why kick the field goal? You're going to fall 1 point shy. You've got your foot on the neck of Goliath. You have to stomp down. The Bears have to go for it there. The league is getting smarter about going for it on fourth down. I don't want it to offend the employment prospects or the sensibilities of guys like Pat McAfee, who I truly enjoyed having on the Will Cain Show just a moment ago. But you can't go to special teams in that moment, be it punt or kick. The league is going for it more on fourth down, and in that moment, you have to win the game, not just avoid failure. The Bears had to go for it. Cerruti, I know we don't have much time left, but is that the same sentiment you had? Win.
Yeah, and I think the Patriots did it 2009, I believe, against the Colts. They were up 2. Instead of punting the ball away to Peyton Manning, they went forward on 4th and 2 from their own 28, and it didn't work out. But I think more teams need to do that.
All right, coming up, is Pat Mahomes the next great quarterback? What's real and what's fake in the NFL?
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to The Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS-consumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
1 week into the NFL season, what's fake? What's real? Fake gold, 24 karat. Is Pat Mahomes the real deal? How about Sam Darnold? Should people really be buying in to Ryan Fitzpatrick, and they should be really concerned about Ben Roethlisberger? We'll answer all those questions in just a moment on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can join the conversation, 888-729-3776. To finish off that conversation about how little backbone, how little go for it there is in the NFL, no matter how many analytics or how many studies and articles are published on go for it on 4th down, 7 points is worth more than 3 points, win, don't lose, it's still a conservative sport by nature. And when you recognize the situation and you recognize your vulnerabilities, like the Chicago Bears should have with 3 minutes to go on Sunday night, when they were up 20-17 over the Green Bay Packers, and Aaron Rodgers was 3/4 of his way into a historic NFL comeback. When the Chicago Bears, having already played as tight as they possibly could in the second half, decided to kick that field goal to go up 23-17, they sealed their fate. They played to avoid failure and ensured they would lose the ballgame. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is going to drive the field with 3 minutes left and score a touchdown to beat you by 1 point. This is not the first time this situation has presented itself. It's not the first time that teams have had a choice between avoiding failure or going for the throat. All out, putting it on the table, chips in the middle, let's win the ball game. Cerruti, you have a great example from 2009.
Yeah, the Patriots are playing the Colts in Indy. They were up 34-32 with the ball on their own 28-yard line. It was 4th and 2. Just over 2 minutes left, 2:08. So essentially, if they get a first down there, it ices the game. The Colts only had one timeout left.
They're on their own 28.
Own 28. Now,
4th and 2.
And this article that I'm reading is basically saying that if you punt in that situation, it nets you about 38 yards on average. The Colts and Peyton Manning, like in his prime, get the ball at their own 34-yard line, only need a field goal to win the game. So they decided, on our own 28, 4th and 2, I'm going to put the ball in our offense's hands, Tom Brady. Let's get the 2 yards and win the game.
Better chance to get the 2 yards than stop Peyton Manning from getting them into field goal distance from about his own 35.
And they failed. They didn't get the 2 yards, and they lost.
But they would have, most likely, statistically, probably lost anyway. But they did it, going for the win.
And I remember, that was an unbelievably hot topic that day. And Belichick was probably right. And if Matt Nagy had done that, had tried to go for the touchdown, I think a lot of times too, when you kick that field goal and go up 6, that gives Aaron Rodgers he gets fourth down. He gets an extra down, essentially.
Because he knows exactly what they need. The board.
So it's almost better to be up 3 sometimes in those situations, because then sometimes they'll settle for a field goal.
Yeah. I think win or lose, whether or not the Patriots made that 2 yards is almost irrelevant. They knew what the probable outcome was, and they were ready to go down swinging, ready to go down going for the win. The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Home Insurance. Getting a quote is easier than ever. What's real and what's fake in the NFL after 1 week? Let's go through several players and their performances after week 1 and ask if this is something that we can count on for the rest of the season. So, Rudy, take it away.
All right, first one. Patrick Mahomes is the next superstar quarterback in the NFL.
Patrick Mahomes is the next Aaron Rodgers.
Whoa.
Book it. That dude, these people calling in, talking to me about Sam Darnold off of one game. Let me tell you something. When you see it, you see it. Pat Mahomes is the real deal. When he threw a dart with the defensive tackle draped on him to Tyreek Hill, who then ran for 75 yards, Pat Mahomes is a stud. He's going to have some interceptions and he's going to lose some games. I ride with Pat Mahomes. What are you so mad about already? Nuno.
Those people calling in? Didn't you start the show kind of that way?
What?
With Sam Darnold?
Yeah, but they're mad because I'm judging off one game. My point is you can see it when you see it. What's up, Rudy? Keep going. What, Bubba?
Yeah, before we get in, I'm just curious. Are you just stealing from Golic and Wingo with a book it or what?
Oh, is that a thing?
Yeah, so you just taking from them now?
They take my takes, I take their sayings.
Oh, all right, nice. Just want to check.
For real, that's a Golic and Wingo thing? Who books it?
Yeah, it's like a sponsored segment. They'll basically say something like that, a statement, book it, and then you say if it's true or not.
All right, I'll find something new. Go ahead, Rudy.
Alex Smith, still a really, really good quarterback.
Alex Smith is still a really good quarterback. Bank it.
Bet your bleep on it.
There you go. Yeah, you already have something.
What? Oh, yeah. I bet my ass on it. I forgot about that. Hey, look, Alex Smith is what he is. He's above average. He's good. If you get Alex Smith, if Sam Darnold ends up being an Alex Smith, that's better than having a Saquon Barkley. An Alex Smith is more valuable than a Zeke Elliott. I'm talking to you from a team that has a Saquon Barkley. I know the Cowboys' future is tied to Dak much more than Saquon. I don't know how I got onto the Cowboys again when talking about Alex Smith, but the point is Alex Smith is good. And he's going to be good for the Redskins. Keep going, Rudy.
Joe Flacco is back.
He's not back.
He's elite.
No, that's not real. That's not real. I know everybody's talking about what amazing preseason he has. I'm sorry, but we have a decade's worth of evidence of what Joe Flacco is. That's awesome. He beat up the Bills.
Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Same thing. Not real. He's going to throw. He's going to even it out. He always does, right? He has these games. And he's going to come back and he's going to have a game like Stafford did last night. He's going to throw 4 picks. And that's who he is with a Harvard diploma.
The Saints regressed.
That's not real either. I'm not buying that. One bad game by the Saints D. They put an entire season with the same guys last year that was good enough to make them Super Bowl contenders. The Saints D is going to be fine. They're going to even that out.
The league has figured out Deshaun Watson.
Too early. Can't do it. Can't bank it. Can't book it. Too early. Not, don't know, fake or real yet. I'm going to have to do this on 2 guys. I know you're going to ask me about another one.
Jimmy Garoppolo, too much hype? Was he scared?
Well, definitely too much hype. Way too much hype. But I'm not telling you that he's all fool's gold. Not one game in. No. He's got something there. Let's see if he can be something.
All right, last one. We're starting to figure out that Dak is pretty average.
I put a lot of film study into this, to put ESPN research on it. I'm nervous. Okay? The dude's holding the ball too long, as I laid it out earlier in the show. He's not anticipating. He sees open guys and throws to open guys. But you got to throw it to guys who aren't open yet, who are in the middle of their cut. I'm nervous. He's not doing it. That's what's real and what's fake in the NFL after 1 week. Carlton from Tampa, you're on the Will Cain Show.
It's time for the Carlton from Tampa 2 minutes of sanity in the fake sports news Will Cain Show. Sam Darnold, there are 32 teams in the league, had the 22nd most passing yards in week 1. He had the 27th most completions. Pat Mahomes tied for 30th with most completions in week 1. Pat Mahomes had the 25th completion ratio in week 1. Let's move Dan Elway's and Dan Marino's and John
Elway
over in Canton and get these 2 guys in there. And by the the way, if the Bears secondary could tackle a wide receiver that runs through them for 70 yards, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have won the game. But to show the fake sports news in all its glory, you guys are missing. You are not connecting the 4 Patriots-related stories today that are the biggest NFL story going on.
All right, keep it tight.
Off, Ian O'Connor's Tom Brady quote that if Aaron Rodgers had the Patriots' offensive scheme and institutional knowledge on opposing defenses, and I emphasize knowledge on opposing defenses, he'd throw for 7,000 yards every year. Story 1. Story 2, the Jets, Darren Lee admitting the Jets were legally stealing the Lions' offensive signals, and they picked the Lions quarterbacks off 5 times and ruined Matt Patricia's first game in the NFL. And then the story going on around the league.
I see where this is going. I see where this is going. Go ahead.
None of the Patriots, Bill Belichick's coaches' protege, 6 of them, McDaniels, Mangini, Crennel, O'Brien, Patricia, or Vrabel, or their 5 GMs, Bob Quinn, Thomas Dimitroff, John Robinson, Jason Light, and Scott Pioli, have done squat since they left the Patriots organization. And then today, Hall of Famer Rod Woodson, 10 years on the on the Pittsburgh Steelers and on your competitors program today, said stealing signals is an enormous competitive advantage, and he knew coaches on the Cleveland Browns when
Carlton, hold on.
And he was cheating there.
Carlton.
Bill Belichick was cheating with the Cleveland Browns.
Can I add it up? I know what you're getting at. These 4 stories. Belichick is sabotaging everybody around him. Is that what you're saying? He's sabotaging Brady. He's putting that message out about Rodgers to Ian O'Connor, and he's sabotaging his protege so nobody succeeds in his absence?
My God, you're not even connecting the dots. Without the institutional cheating, 7 years of Spygate, 8 years of Deflategate, putting a pin in the football, they don't have 5 titles.
I like my conspiracy theory way better than yours. He's undercutting everybody around him. That's so Carlton. Go work on that in the lab, because that's a you take.
Tom Brady under the bus only to keep himself from being banned from the league. Had they been able to tie him to Deflategate,
I gotta go. If I give you 2 days, you're gonna come back with that take because you're gonna like it. He's throwing Patricia and all those guys under the bus. Okay, I gotta go. They're all pointing. Thanks, Carlton. Appreciate it as always for the 2 minutes of sanity. Tennis pro Marty Fish is going to debate me on Serena and whether or not she was treated unfairly at the U.S. Open next in the Will Cain Show. Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS-consumeraccess.org number 3030. Yesterday, I laid out for you my argument when it comes to Serena Williams. Essentially, it amounts to this. Serena Williams deserved her punishment, committed 3 clear violations, and pulled the sexism card when everything else fell apart for her. It was a disgrace of an excuse, a disgrace of a performance, and it was a disgraceful way to treat Naomi Osaka's first major win at 20 years old. It got a little attention yesterday on social media, so Rudy and I talked about it. Should we revisit it today? It made its rounds on YouTube and Instagram and on Twitter, and it led to a conversation on Twitter between myself, former ESPN host and tennis player Prem Siripapat, and former tennis pro Marty Fish, who also works for ESPN. They both disagree with me. They both disagree with my take. And joining me now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, at least I'm led to believe, Marty, You disagree with my conclusion when it comes to Serena Williams and her performance on Saturday. Is that correct?
I think it's fair. I mean, look, there's a lot of different layers to it. I mean, look, when you just take what happened after the game penalty and the conversation with the umpire, look, there's a lot of things as an athlete, a former athlete, that in those stressful environments, there's a lot of things that we all wish we could have back, certain ways that we've handled those stressful situations. The thing that got her in trouble for the game penalty that we talk about is maybe attacking the wrong. We've mentioned before. A couple guys have mentioned. Look, I've said worse and not gotten anything. The issue with that is that if you attack their integrity, if you say, you're a cheater or you're a liar or you're a thief kind of way, instead of just, bleepity bleep, they're going to take that pretty seriously. Now, I don't think that the umpire handled it correctly in that giving her a game penalty for something like that, especially not really understanding the situation, kind of the situational awareness. But, but if he's going by the book, he's going by the book. Now, the first one as well is the coaching violation, which I think is a total joke, just to get it in the first place, because ESPN did a really nice job on air or on the coverage of sort of singling out what Serena was doing or looking at and where the box was and her coach. And if you look, maybe she glanced at one point from her, out of the corner of her eye. And I can tell you, having been on that court before, where she's standing and where he's sitting in the second row behind people in the first place, that you're 60 yards away, 50 or 60 yards away from where he is. So to be able to see that, even seeing what he did, now I don't know why he acknowledged that he was coaching her after the fact. That's a whole different topic. But look, to answer that part, we handle a lot of stressful situations like that, and that's sometimes not when your true colors come out.
Former tennis pro Marty Fisher on the Will Cain Show. Let's focus in on two different areas, one at a time. Let's focus on the coaching violation first for a second, Marty. You point out it's unclear to you whether or not she was receiving coaching, whether or not she knew it, whether or not she could see it, if it was even possible for her to see the hand signals that her coach was giving her from the box, which is against the rules. I've heard two different arguments on this. First, Marty, one, everybody does it. And in fact, that's what her coach said. But to me, that falls flat because a lot of people speed, but not everybody gets a ticket. So when you get pulled over, you don't get to say, but you didn't pull over the other guy. You didn't pull over this guy. He got caught, and he admitted to it, meaning her coach. He got caught, and he admitted to it. It seems immaterial, from what I understand of the rules, whether or not she was receiving it. That was a violation, and violations are penalized on the player. If a coach is doing it, that's against the rules.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It is against the rules to do that thing. However, I'll give you an example. John Isner was playing in the semifinals of Wimbledon, a big match. His coach, Justin Gimelstob, is a good friend of mine. He was telling me this. We were over the other night talking about this, and he mentioned that he does a lot of the coaching as well from the box. A lot of people do it, like you said. A lot of coaches do, in fact, do it, and they never call it. And I agree with you to that part, the speeding part. What the umpire did to him was it was a woman. She didn't embarrass him. She didn't call a coaching violation. She waited for there to be a changeover. They both sat down. She moved the microphone away from the thing. She waited until she got his attention or got his eye contact and said enough. Right. And with her hand, enough. And then he stopped. And that is the way in that situation to handle that specific.
Well, that brings us, Marty, to, and again, it's Marty Fish, former tennis professional here on the Will Cain Show. That brings us to the second, or it's actually, let's skip the racket violation because that one's pretty clear cut.
Yeah, that one, that was very clear. Yeah.
The third, which you mentioned earlier, the you're a thief, you stole a point from me. As you admit, or as you point out to us, attacking his character, and they're going to hold that against you. One of the logical flaws I find people making, I had Sally Jenkins on the show yesterday, is that has never amounted to a game penalty in the past, and therefore that is a reflection of sexism. In other words, while Djokovic or Murray may have been warned or a point penalized for saying you're stupid, this time he gave more. But the logical flaw I find people having trouble getting, Marty, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it wasn't a scale issue. It wasn't, oh, you called me a thief, I'm giving you a game penalty. It was, this is your third violation. And it goes warning, point, game. The warning was the coaching violation. The point was the smashed racket. And the you're a thief is the third. That's what I find people having trouble with. They seem to think it's all about game being penalized for thief. Well, that must be sexism.
Well, I mean, then those people just don't understand the rules of it. Obviously, you're right in that regard. That's not what she got just for that. However, she probably forgot about the point. She when she broke her racket initially, she forgot about the warning because you know that as well. That's 2 code violations. That's a point penalty. That's very rare as well. But the racket toss was pretty aggressive, and we've all done that, and we've all got and they give that every time to anyone. The third one though, and the game. You always know, especially if you're that far into it, especially if that in that situation, there's always some leniency there. Like if they'll usually meaning 99% of the time, they'll say, back off or calm down or, hey, if you keep going, I'm going to have to give you a game. And he didn't do that.
It seems
now
clear.
I've had Carlos Ramos. I'm sorry?
It seems clear. I'm sorry to wrap you up, man. I'm over time, and I know you don't know that. I got all kinds of pressures to stay on time. But what seems clear, Marty, is that he's strict, right? He doesn't give leniency. That seems clear.
Yep.
But it doesn't
There's
seem
no doubt.
But that doesn't seem
There's
clear
no
to
doubt
me.
about it, and he's great. Yeah, he's great. I've had him a bunch of times. He's a fantastic umpire. He's not a woman or a man thing. He's calling it how he is, and he's very strict. You're
there
right.
we go. Okay, Marty. Listen, you're always welcome to come on. Anytime you hear something you disagree with, I appreciate the debate. I thank you for your time, man.
No problem, Will. Take care, pal.
Okay, that's Marty Fish on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Coming up, am I overreacting to Sam Darnold's first start? Plus, why don't more teams go all in like the Rams? We'll talk to former NFL coach John Fox next on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Did you know ADT can design and install a smart home just for you? A new smart home at your service, customized for your lifestyle. ADT can even close your garage door while you're at your kid's soccer practice to help keep criminals and critters on the sidelines. Now, that's what I call goal-keeping service. It's all controlled from the ADT app or the sound of your voice and backed by 24/7 protection. Visit ADT.com/smart to learn more about how ADT can help keep your home safe and smart.
Joining us now is former NFL coach John Fox in studio giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. So I'm going to start right with this, Coach. Last time you were on, everybody talked about it. All the guys there, that's Bubba, Cerruti, Nuno. They noticed that when you jumped on, you took your mint out and you put it on the table right there and left it sitting there the entire interview and then picked it back up when you were done and walked out. And you just told me why.
Yeah, I dipped up until January. So Copenhagen, for people that don't know out there, it's basically, it's a very addicting form of tobacco.
Right.
And I never started it as a kid. I did it when I got into coaching. And so it's a terrible habit, something that, I figured it's about time for me to kick, much to my doctors and dentists, encouragement. So I do these little nicotine tablets now. So it's not the healthiest thing in the world, but it's better than dipping.
I told you that I dipped for 20 years, and I went through my own quits and got on it in phases. And you told me, tell me what your doctor said to get you off of it.
Yeah, basically he explained to me, actually it was my dentist at this point. He said, now, what I want you to understand is every time you put one of those in your mouth, all right, your gums are the same tissue as your eyeball. So just picture stuffing one of those into your eye. All right. And that was kind of a wake up call for me.
Yeah, because you're like, I would never do that. Like just take a big wad of Copenhagen and smear it into my eye socket.
I can't stand if I get a piece of dirt in my eye. All right. So that was a wake up call for me.
Wait. One more dipping question. You
All
said you didn't start till later in life when you started coaching. How old was that?
I think right after college, so I was probably 22.
Okay.
And I really started with Levi Garrett Leaf. We used to get it free. In fact, everybody used to get Copenhagen free.
Yeah.
In sport. But then, obviously, much like smoking was when I was growing up, my parents all smoked. Everybody in my family smoked. My aunts and uncles and everybody. And, through time, people figured out it wasn't very healthy for you. So it was the same thing with chew or dip, as far as the smokeless tobacco. That's not very good for you either.
No, we all went through the same thing, by the way. Start with Levi Garrett, go up to Bandits, then start getting on Skull, and when you get to Copenhagen, that's when you're drinking whiskey by the bottle.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. That's how I used to correlate it all the time too. I'm way past the beer and wine.
Right.
I'm in the moonshine.
Coach John Fox here on the Will Cain Show. All right, let me ask you a question that we've been talking about it today. When Matt Nagy, the guy who succeeds you in Chicago, decides with 3 minutes to go to kick a field goal to go up 23-17 on the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers has already embarked on his 17-point comeback. I got to be honest, Coach. For myself and many watching, that's the moment you realize the Bears just lost the game. Rodgers is going to drive the field. He's going to win this game 24-23. Now, I want you to put me inside your mindset as a coach. I know you got to say, have faith in your defense. I know, and Kyle Fuller, if he holds that interception, it's a different game. But the truth of the matter is, in that moment, I'm thinking, you got to win the game. You got to go score more than Aaron Rodgers is capable of. Don't play to lose, play to win. Beat Aaron Rodgers because he's coming out here to beat you.
Well, I'm sure that was talked about. You're on a headset. Different people have different suggestions, and I'm sure that was brought up. But I go back to Bill Belichick. They were in a shootout. It was Indy and New England a while back, and they were backed up. It was 4th and
2,
maybe
2.
1.5.
You're talking about 2009,
yeah, exactly. Yes. And I think Teddy at that point had just recently even got into broadcasting, and Teddy being an expatriate, he was he bled it. Even he questioned it. And this is his guy
on their own 28.
Yeah. I remember watching it. All right. And it was close. It was not, it wasn't like it was something snuffed out totally. It was a really good play on Indy's part. But, look, he thought, kind of a little bit like what you're saying, but you got to remember that game was a little bit of tale of two halves. I think, the defense dominated the game early. And then
talking about Chicago Packers now.
Exactly. Yeah. And, when you're kind of in a must pass situation, I think, I can understand them kicking the field goal as well. But it did cross my mind, and I've seen Aaron Rodgers too many times. And he was incredible. I don't think 10 more times that pass that went for 75 goes for 75 again. Maybe the 1 out of 10 that goes that far. So, it was a pretty remarkable play, and, both by, Aaron to buy the time as well as, Randall Cobb and making that adjustment, and they do a great job of it.
Former NFL coach John Fox here on the Will Cain Show. He's going to hang out for a couple segments. We're going to talk about everything going on in the NFL. Let me do this. Before we go to break, I'm just going to ask you about 2 things. Let's do this short. Are these real concerns, or are they no big deal in the NFL? 1, the Saints defense. Is it going to be like last year, or do you have real concerns after the first week?
Well, if you remember last year, they got shredded in their opener too. I think what happens is, first of all, every season you got to, regardless of the team and how you finished a year ago, it's a new personality. That's a new football team every season. I'd like to, everybody to really understand that, because it's not like it was before free agency where you had guys for 13 years in the same locker room. It doesn't work that way anymore. It's almost like junior college. Every 2 years you turn over. And everybody's kind of pulled in their horns a little bit on the preseason. So guys don't play as much in the preseason. So, I think they'll adjust. I'm familiar with their defense. I'm familiar with their defensive personnel. I just think, like everything, too much is made out of that first game of the season. Is it cause for concern? Of course it is. It happened. It's on video. You can see it. I think that they'll learn from it and they'll move on. I don't think you can put – it's never as bad as people think, and it's never as good as people think, especially on that one regular season game.
Okay, I'll tell you what. When we come back, I'm going to ask you about Jimmy Garoppolo, Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes. We'll talk about whether or not it's as good as it looks or as bad as it looks for many of these guys, and whether or not the Rams are doing it right by going all in on this year, 1 year. John Fox sticks around. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Former NFL coach John Fox is in studio. Let's talk a little bit about the Los Angeles Rams. By the way, Coach Fox just used the phrase "for a minute" perfectly, and I did not expect. He said, "I've been talking about the Rams now for a minute." I don't even use that. They make fun of me. I don't even know. I feel like that's a brand new saying, and I don't even know.
These guys are rough. These young people are rough to hang out with. I got 3 sons that wear me out.
That's where you got it from.
Yeah.
The Rams were, by all reports, Adam Schefter's putting it out there, the Rams were all in on Khalil Mack. The Los Angeles Rams were willing to offer a first and a third to the Raiders for Khalil Mack. The plan was to give him a new contract and then, a year from now, trade Khalil Mack to somebody else. What an astounding plan, one you rarely see play out in the NFL. You might see Brandon Cooks get signed by the New England Patriots for that 5th year, but not when you would trade for somebody, give them a contract, and then flip them a year from now. I can't find an example, a parallel in the NFL of another player a team has done that with. And what it shows me is 2 things. The Rams are innovative, forward-thinking, and willing, number 2, to push their chips into the table in a way very few other teams are. They are all in on 2018. Whether or not it's signing Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters, Adama Kinsu, or trading for Khalil Mack, they believe this is their year. And I don't care whether or not I think they're right or wrong. I appreciate that if they believe it, they're shoving their chips into the middle of the table, Coach. And I don't think many teams are doing that, meaning they see their window and they're willing to ante up everything they have to maximize that window.
Yeah, I think, again, I used to try to remind the general managers that I worked for, I said, it's not your money. Why are you being so tight with it? The league's got money and nobody's at the cap anymore. I think, other than the teams that are all in, and I think it's pretty astounding. And, like I said earlier, I really liked it. I know Wade Phillips personally and what he likes shut down corners, and they go out and they get, 2 Pro Bowl corners, all right, in free agency. You talked about Sue. They were stouting up the inside. You got, Aaron Donald in there that they were going to sign. It was just a matter of when. So, he's as big an impact player as there is on defense. And then their offense made great improvements a year ago. They go out and get Brandon Cooks, a guy that they obviously liked a lot. They've spent some money this offseason.
Do you think, are the Rams one of your who do you have picked right now to go to the Super Bowl?
Well, I think, NFC wise, I really love Philadelphia. I mean, what they did last year was amazing with Nick Foles. I know he was MVP of the Super Bowl, and he really played well. I thought their coaching staff did a really good job once Carson went down. Carson Wentz, I'm talking about, as far as getting in, they practiced during the bye week. I mean, they kept everybody around, and they practiced. Usually that's a time to rest people, but that was a smart move by Doug Peterson and their coaching staff. But now let's not confuse him with Carson Wentz. I mean, that's a different football team. That guy's special. He was on his way to be the MVP of the league before he had his surgery. So I like their defense. I don't think people talk about them enough. They're very opportunistic. I think they do a terrific job. Again, their coaching. I have guys that coached with me in the past that are there. So they're the team I like probably the best. But real close is the Rams. And, especially what they did. They made great improvements on offense a year ago. Sean McVay coming in, doing what they did offensively. And then they went out and got Wade some guys to, help them play aggressive up front and, have some shutdown corners.
Let me ask you about a couple of guys after 1 week. Should we believe these guys are the real deal or fool's gold here after 1 week and their performance? And this could be on the positive side or the negative side. Right. What Pat Mahomes has done in Kansas City in 1 week. I'm blown away. I think the guy looks amazing. What do you think? Well,
they were very high on him even going back to the draft, and they were able to sit him with Alex there, and Alex had a tremendous year. But they've got some weapons there on offense. I mean, that's a very talented offense. I mean, you look what Tyreek Hill did, just in week 1. And obviously Patrick Mahomes, they felt real comfortable with him. I was at a personal workout with him at Texas Tech, and he can make all the throws. He's got a cannon, and he's a guy he's unflappable. I think you look at what Sam Darnold's done, and even what Patrick Mahomes done, didn't play last year, but he's got that personality where they're not going to get too high, they're not going to get too low. They're just going to keep out there, and gunning it. And he did that in college. I think you'll see him do the same types of things. Very athletic, both not just arm talent, but his athleticism with his feet too.
I'm losing my voice here, Coach.
That's all right. Hey, you hear my voice, right?
It was so touching what you just said.
Yeah, I didn't mean to break you up like that. Well,
Jimmy Garoppolo, go.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget who he played against. I mean, that's arguably the best defense in the league. At least it was a year ago. And, at their place, which that's not an easy place to play. It's very loud. That makes it tough. I think they got down to their final linemen during the game. Typically you go in, with 7 linemen active, and they had 2 of them go down. So that can, throw some wrenches into your plan that day. So, he had to drop a wide open guy. I mean, I think he's just going to continue to get better.
So you're not worried about Jimmy Garoppolo. Are you worried about Deshaun Watson?
No, not really. I think, him going down with the ACL a year ago, I think he was terrific early. I mean, that team might have been a playoff team had they not lost him for the season. And I think, that's a good football team. They played again on the road. I just don't get too tied up on everything, as far as, and, he didn't have a full off season like, most people have, coming off of that injury. It takes a minute. So I look for him to just get better and better every week.
Thank God you're here. I mean, I don't know how to done this segment. Give me that nicotine tablet.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm serious.
I don't know, maybe the fumes got
something
to
open up the senses here.
Yeah.
Get the blood vessels flowing here. All right. You are pretty even keeled about everybody. You don't have any big concerns that I can hear after week 1 or too high on any. I'm all over the place, man. I think Sam Darnold's a franchise quarterback. I think Pat Mahomes is the next Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, I like both of them.
I only needed 1 week.
And I will say this, that a big part of that is I like both players too. I think, Sam Darnold was my number 1 guy coming out. I watched him even going back to his redshirt freshman year when he brought USC back to beat Penn State.
Yeah.
And you could tell he had it then. That's a big city. That's a big environment, for the college level. And, going to New York City, having spent 5 years there with the Giants, I understand what that place is like as well. And he's handled it excellent.
All right. Good stuff. I needed you.
Yeah.
I lost my voice.
All right.
If it ends up sounding like yours, I'm going to sound cool. I hope that happens. All right. John Fox on the Will Cain Show. Appreciate it, Coach.
All right.
Why don't more teams do what the Rams are doing? Next, the Will Cain Show.
Thank you for listening to the Will Cain Podcast. You can listen to the Will Cain Show live weekdays at 3 Eastern on ESPN Radio and on the ESPN app. The Will Cain Podcast.
Support for the Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
This is the Will Cain Podcast on ESPN Radio.
Sam Darnold is the real deal. And New York Giants fans are going to spend the next decade with buyer's remorse because they passed on a franchise quarterback for a running back. You'd rather have 10 years of Sam Darnold than 10 years of Saquon Barkley. No matter how great they both end up being. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, SiriusXM Channel 80, and on ESPN News. You can join the conversation, 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Sam Darnold came out last night and immediately threw a pick 6 to the Detroit Lions. He immediately threw across the field an ugly play that was intercepted by Quandre Diggs and returned straight to the end zone. And Sam, well, like those that came before him, like Brett Favre, had to pick himself up.
After that moment, it was, okay, now how do I respond? And I think on the sideline, someone tell me, hey, Brett Favre's first throw was a pick. So I was just trying to bounce back as good as I could. And I knew that I didn't have to do anything, outside of the ordinary. I just had to continue to be myself, get to my checkdowns, take the shots when they're there, and the game will come to me, and that's kind of what happened.
And the game did come to Darnold. He had a quarterback rating of 117. He averaged over 9 yards an attempt to completion. And I think you're going to spend the next 10 years debating whether or not Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold was the best quarterback to come out of this draft class. And it's not because they're both equally average. It's because they're both equally great franchise quarterbacks. Sam Darnold is the real deal. Now, am I being a prisoner of the moment? Am I working off a one-game sample size? Am I absolutely jumping the gun? There are others out there who are saying, whoa. You remember New York Jets fans? You remember what they thought about Mark Sanchez in 2009? In fact, I believe that was you, Nuno, who said that to me earlier. Are you sure he's not Mark Sanchez?
Well, we brought it up, and that I remember when Sanchez played, well, didn't even play well. That team was really good because defensively and everything else, and it was, is Sanchez better than Eli? And Dari Noka, on one of the promos we run, actually made a good point. It's not about Darnold and Barkley. It's comparing Darnold to Eli. If Eli is still good for them for the next 2 years, that's what you're comparing it against. You're comparing it Darnold against Eli, not Barkley.
I totally and utterly 100% disagree. I think that's a New York Giants fan searching the world of takes to find one to make you feel better about yourself. If you think this is a comparison between Sam Darnold and Eli Manning, you simply are bad at analogies. That's not true. The truth of the matter is, you had a choice. You went to the store. You looked at the aisles. You went up and down the shelves, and you said, I can have a Saquon Barkley or I can have a Sam Darnold. And you chose a Saquon Barkley. You chose a running back over a quarterback. If you chose because you thought I have 2 years of Eli Manning, I'm willing to sacrifice 10 years of franchise quarterback because I've got 2 years of Eli Manning, you are not unique. You're just short-sighted. Most people are short-sighted. Most people want immediate returns. Most people want immediate gratification. Saquon Barkley was your immediate gratification. You hoped for the best of both worlds. I can continue with average quarterback play and great running back play and hope I get a Super Bowl. Or you do what everyone knows they need to do over the long term. Secure your franchise quarterback. That's Sam Darnold. And as for the Mark Sanchez comparisons, please. We're not even talking about in the same universe here. Mark Sanchez was a 53% completion percentage passer. That rookie year, 12 touchdowns to 20 interceptions. And if you want to get beyond the stats, Mark Sanchez never dropped dimes like Sam Darnold was throwing last night. Sam Darnold throws with accuracy, depth, and anticipation. Watch it. You will see it. The bottom line is, I'm sorry, Nuno. I'm sorry, Giants fans. You passed on a franchise quarterback. Have fun watching everybody debate Baker versus Sam for the next decade. What's up, Srudy?
We have an issue with you.
And what's new?
You have this. So when we had John Fox on, the first part of the segment, he had him tell the story about the Copenhagen and chewing tobacco and why he put the mint on the desk, and you just totally sell this down the river.
What?
You just tattled on us. You're like, all the guys in the studio were wondering why you were doing this, why you were putting your mint on the table. Everybody was talking about it. It was weird. You just totally threw us under the bus.
Well, I didn't say it was weird, and it's not
You implied that it was like we were all joking about it. I like John. I'm not trying to be weird with John now.
Maybe this is like our own little internal Leo Roughton situation. Maybe this is where I'm not fully appreciating your levels of sensitivity. See, I didn't turn to John Fox and say, hey, did you know Srudy likes to wear panties on the weekend? I didn't turn to him and give him any deep, dark secrets of your own. I didn't say, hey, let me tell you about hold on. Speaking of habits, you know what Bubba's into? I didn't give anything that was possibly
you
in
said,
the realm
hey,
of
all those guys there were talking about how
information.
weird it was you put a mint on the table. That's what you did.
I said
implying
everybody
basically
noticed.
we were talking bleep about him.
I said everybody, Coach, noticed you took your mint out and said it. I think it was specifically Bubba that did it, by the way, who noticed it. I don't think I was tattling.
This also wasn't the first time this has happened.
You guys have more things.
There was a boss who you said right in front of him something we were talking about in a room in confidentiality. And you said it right in front of the boss.
What, today?
I can't. I want to repeat it.
Today when Trog was here?
They're probably listening.
What?
It wasn't Trog.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Here's what I think the issue is. Like other people I've interacted with, maybe, and this is me taking ownership here, maybe I'm not fully aware of the things that you put into your protected zone. Like, this is our personal, private, do not touch space.
If you said,
I didn't know all the things you pack into that area. I would be claustrophobic in that area. I like everything out there. Like a little more elbow room in my privacy. Like, what's protected and what's open.
For example, if we're in this room talking and our boss Liam, you said, "Hey Liam, did you see the shirt he was wearing? What the heck was that?" And then I, in front of Liam, go, "Yeah, hey, Will was talking about how weird that shirt you were wearing." That's not cool, dude. You just outed us.
I'm here for the audience.
That's bro code.
My bros are listening right now, and they want in on all this stuff. They need to know what's going on behind the scenes. They don't want your namby-pamby secrets and your protected zones, okay? Now that you've done this, I'm going to tell what? Well, I'm going to tell all kinds of things about you. Now that I know this, we're going to start talking about what you wear on the weekends, Nuno.
No, I'm just sitting here
back
listening.
In the credit card days?
Oh, God, no.
Perfect example.
What does he wear on the weekends? I want to know.
Remember the story about the credit card days and what he and the boys used to...
Relax, some people listening to the show.
We're going to get into some of those stories. Tweet the show through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at Will Cain Show. Nothing makes up for your football obsession like a surprise from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order a dozen multicolored roses, plus an extra bouquet and a vase for just $29.99, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. I got to get out of here because the voice of Monday Night Football is going to join us in just a second. Hey, do you think
I just got an IM from Liam. He wants to know what's wrong with his shirt.
I don't even know. What was Cerruti talking about?
It was an example.
It was just an example.
We like your shirts, Liam.
You tattled on yourself there. See? All right. I was going to ask you guys to give me some more critiques. Like, am I fraud on Matt Stafford? Like, I criticized Matt Ryan, criticized Ben Roethlisberger. I'm not criticizing Matt Stafford today. I mean, I don't know. Am I being inconsistent? Or does Matt Stafford just have a bad night and he's really a top 5 quarterback in the NFL?
Either way, you're a fraud.
Let's ask Joe Tess. The voice of Monday Night Football, next on The Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Support for The Will Cain Show podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Let's talk about buying a home for a moment. Because of rising interest rates, there's a lot of unpredictability when it comes to buying a home these days. It's causing a lot of anxiety with folks. Well, our friends at Quicken Loans are doing something about that. They're calling it the power buying process. Here's how it works. Quicken Loans will verify your income, assets, and credit in less than 24 hours to give you a verified approval. This gives you the strength of a cash buyer. Then, once you're verified, you qualify for their all-new exclusive Rate Shield approval. First, they'll lock your rate for up to 90 days while you shop. Now, here's the best part. If rates go up, your rate stays the same. But if rates go down, your rate also drops. Either way, you win. It's the kind of thinking you'd expect from America's largest mortgage lender. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/will. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year purchase transactions. Additional conditions or exclusions may apply. Based on Quicken Loans data in comparison to public data records. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS ConsumerAccess.org number 3030. The voice of Monday Night Football, Joe Tessitore there. You can hear it on The Will Cain Show. Tess, let me tell you what I thought. You tell me if I'm off base, okay?
Sure.
I watched you guys last night. You were great. You, Witten, Booger. I'm going to tell you who else I thought was pretty good. I thought Jon Gruden was pretty good. I thought the Raiders were pretty good. A lot of people thinking he's outdated or something, and I know they lost. I know the score wasn't pretty. I saw a team hitting, running. I saw Jared Cook running through tackles and Marshawn Lynch carrying 10 dudes. I thought they're playing like a tough Gruden team. What do you think?
I think considering the roster that he's dealing with and knowing what he was up against, I thought you saw a more diverse offense. You saw tempo. You saw scheme. You saw putting guys into proper mismatches to take advantage. As you mentioned, Jared Cook, those numbers were ridiculous. You saw a team play with heart with the interior of the offensive line. And then you saw a team that at the end of 3 quarters, and by way of a ridiculous and just silly turnover by Derek Carr, was outclassed by one of the best roster collections you've seen of talent in the NFL in recent years. And you're going to get gashed, you're going to get run down, and you're going to get that hefty dose of Todd Gurley like we've seen time and time again in the course of the last year in the NFL, and it goes away. But for 3 quarters, and knowing the gap in talent there, yes, you saw a pretty decent Raiders team putting up a pretty decent effort there.
I'll tell you who I'm not impressed with, though, Tess. And
Who's
you
that?
mentioned it. Derek Carr, man. And I'm not a hater. I want to believe. There's nothing in me that says I want to doubt him. But those interceptions are mysterious. I don't know what's going on the one.
Inexplicable in the fourth quarter. The one in the fourth quarter to the near side. I kept looking at the replay, trying to say, we went to commercial break. I'm saying, give me that replay again. Was his arm hit? Did something? I'm looking all over to see what got in the way. How could the ball even come out that way? What was he looking at? And then, we're taking shots at commercial. I'm like, let's see his face. Like, what's this conversation like Gruden like? I mean, I think even Derek Carr is disappointed with Derek Carr, Cain.
Yeah, but do you understand yet? I don't. Like, what's the explanation for that throw?
Not the one there in the fourth quarter, early on in the fourth quarter, not the pick six one, the near side interception. It was just awful, and it sent the game sour.
Let's go to the other side of the ball. Let's talk about the Rams for a second. Talking to Joe Tessitore here, the voice of Monday Night Football. You can check out Tess, Jason Witten, and Booger McFarland next Monday night on ESPN for Seahawks Bears. The Rams. I'm fascinated by this story. Adam Schefter says they were all in on Khalil Mack, a first and a third, and the plan, Tess, was to flip him a year from now, to trade him a year from now, presumably after having to give him a contract to get him into camp. I can't think of a parallel of another team who's done something like that. I mean, you've seen teams trade for a guy in the fifth year and then trade him right before they have to give him an extension or something like that, like with Brandon Cooks and the Patriots. But going all in on a big-time guy like Mack, I think the Rams are doing something you see very, very rarely, seeing their window and pushing all their chips into the middle of the table. And it makes me wonder, why don't more teams do this?
I agree with you, Cain, and it started this past winter. And, I spent some time with Les Snead, the general manager, at the owners' meetings this past spring. And that was bubbling up with the transactions, the free agent transactions, the trade that they made, putting all those final pieces together. You get the Pro Bowl-level corners, you get the Skeet Birder and Brandon Cooks, you get the other nose tackle in Ndamukong Suh, and they are, in recent memory of sports, the ultimate win-now team. And you know what? Based on the team I saw last night, there is no head shaking when you talk about the Rams as legitimate of a Super Bowl contender as can be, because they can do it every which way. Then you add in the dynamic play calling of the precocious, dynamic, hotshot head coach play caller in McVay, and the willingness to still be aggressive no matter down in distance, no matter what's on the clock or what's on the scoreboard, and doing things that work for Jared Goff really well. We saw that last year. Protected him better. Utilized the screen pass more. Hand the ball off to Gurley in the fourth quarter. Last night, you saw it with the willingness to go back to the well time and time again with the play action stuff. This is a team that has everything. If they stay healthy, they are going to be right there.
Let me ask you this, talking to Joe Tessitore then, the host, the voice of Monday Night Football. He's got Seahawks Bears next week. Tess, by the way, I think you guys are coming together wonderfully. I think
nice of you to say.
Booger's my guy. I love Booger. He'll call in and tell me when he thinks I'm so off base. You know I like Witten and the Cowboys, and you are doing an absolutely fantastic job. I'm so happy we have you.
When are you coming out on the road, man? You need to get a firsthand eyewitness experience of this whole thing.
Well, I can tell you one. I've got one in the books, okay? That's going to be Cowboys-Titans Monday night. I'll be in Dallas doing First Take that morning. So
yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Can I come up?
Oh, yeah, you come up, and then we'll go out afterwards, have a fun time. It'll be a blast.
That'll be my host. Then I'm going to take you for barbecue.
Weekend. That's going to be like Witten Fest.
Yeah, you're right.
You know the Metroplex is my kind of place now.
But you're right. Witten is the host. Witten takes us out on that.
No, you show Jason around Dallas.
You're going to Nick and Sam's then. You're going to Nick and Sam's. You're getting the big center table. Witten walks into Nick and Sam's, which we've experienced at this point. It is absolutely outrageous. That is a once-in-a-lifetime dinner right there.
But I still want the test experience up here Northeast. I want the Italian.
We'll get that
the
done.
Wine. I want the whole deal. I got to run, but I'm going to ask you one last question on the way out, and I'll just give you the whole field. Mahomes, Seahawks on the ugly side, on the worrisome side, Garoppolo on the worrisome side. Out of everything you saw in Week 1, Tess, what's the most real to you? What do you believe is true?
Patrick Mahomes, and I felt that way when I did his bowl game against LSU when he was just this dynamic, sensational athlete who the game slows down for him. He is something very, very special. They knew it last year. They sensed it all off season, and the building blocks are ahead of schedule. He is the real deal. And I look at that, and now I love the way our Monday Night Football schedule shapes up because we have him at Denver, and then the Mexico City Monday night game in November, third week of November, Mahomes against the Rams.
Mexico City. Maybe I should come to that one. Kidding me? All right, I
Get
feel
that
like it's an
Blanco
open
working,
invitation.
bro.
Yeah. All right, man. You're the best. Thanks for being on our show.
Next Tuesday.
Okay.
Take care. Thank you.
Joe Tessitore, the voice of Monday Night Football. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. And there he goes. We know now the second greatest Italian American. Consider me intrigued.
Very interesting. I don't know.
I'm going to spend the entire commercial break thinking about who's number one.
No, it's not Cerruti.
Coming up, the top 5 in the 5, my top 5 college football teams in the country right now. It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Did you know ADT can design and install a smart home just for you? A new smart home at your service, customized for your lifestyle. ADT can even close your garage door while you're at your kid's soccer practice to help keep criminals and critters on the sidelines. Now, that's what I call goal-keeping service. It's all controlled from the ADT app or the sound of your voice and backed by 24/7 protection. Visit ADT.com/smart to learn more about how ADT can help keep your home safe and smart.
Is that an example of me not knowing boundaries? I want to talk about everything we just talked about on the air. People that believe that Sally Jenkins got the better of me yesterday in our debate. All of Nuno's PC. Nuno's not even PC. Nuno, you see
PC, bro.
You see offense or potential offense, or what is the word here?
Nuno, are you PC?
No, I'm not. I just like messing with you and bringing stuff up.
No, you don't. You will all the time. Okay, to all of us, you'll be like, "Oh, that could be racist, or that could be this, or that could be." You hear dog whistles like if you were I don't even know I'm going to mess up every analogy because. You hear things coming from every direction. You wouldn't know which way to run.
And on this one, it wasn't me. It was him. It was Bubba.
Not accurate.
You keep confusing James and Jerry.
See, I did that. You're breaking the circle of trust. I don't. I know James. James fills in on the show all the time. Love James.
Yeah, you just call him Jerry from time to time.
No, I don't. Now that brings us to the Golic and Wingo crew.
Can we also talk about last segment before Tess came on, that the beginning of the segment was just you turning your mic on and coughing, and then just saying, did I just do that on the air?
I just turned my mic on and then coughed.
Yep.
All right.
Can't wait for Friday.
Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN. Whatever I do, whatever I've done this week, if I win, this thing's rigged. He has to win. You skipped a whole week of mess-ups. Bubba literally, if I win on Friday, this game is rigged. Bubba had the biggest mess-up of the last 2 weeks.
That's not even true.
It's 100.
Yours was mine was a technical aspect. Yours was not being able to tell a hard out.
You were literally making fun of me for throwing to break.
Yeah, but I didn't miss the hard out.
And
I was
30
not
seconds
unaware.
After that, you left us with 10 seconds of dead air that you
then
could only
I played
fill
the
by
police.
Roxanne.
Yeah, I played the police. We didn't get a sound alarm. I, in fact, did my job. You did not.
We'll let the jury decide on
The
Friday.
jury doesn't know anything.
The Will Cain Show is brought to you by the Home Depot, a proud sponsor of College Game Day Tour. Live this Saturday from Arlington, Texas, as Ohio State takes on TCU. The Home Depot, the next generation of home improvement with everything you need to do projects smarter. The Home Depot, more saving, more doing. Speaking of college football and Ohio State, it's time for our top 5 in the 5. Take it away, Bubba.
The top 5.
Got it.
This radio talk is terrible.
In the 5.
No bed, no music.
Nothing. Just not doing your job, but it's my fault. Once again, should I just wait? You want to try again?
It's up to you.
Nuno's joking.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Once again, we go from the tail end of you talking about me not doing my job to you not doing your job.
Well, I mean, I think it's semantics.
Okay. My top 5, anytime you want to roll the bed in, you can. My top 5 college football programs.
Nailed it.
Perfect.
Nailed it. Take it down a notch. Thank you. All right. At number 5. It's going to seem as a little bit of drop, but I'm going to tell you something. I have nothing but nice words to say for you. The Clemson Tigers. That was a hard-earned victory at Kyle Field in Texas A&M. And I think by the end of this season, it will be what amounts to as a quality win. It will be something used in debates to burnish Clemson's resume. I believe in the end this is going to end up helping you. But for now, that tight game that showed some vulnerabilities for Clemson is going to put you at number 5. Don't be mad now. You'll be happy later. Pain in the short term, victory in the long term. At number 4, The Ohio State University. I'll be honest, just like Kyler Murray, I was slow to jump on the Dwayne Haskins bandwagon. Dude can play. Ohio State is good. At number 3, and this is the big takeaway here, okay? One conference, 3 best teams in the country. At number 3, the Auburn Tigers. Whether or not Jarrett Stidham is as good as Dwayne Haskins or whether or not Auburn is as well-rounded as Ohio State is almost beside the point. You have to do 2 things, I feel like, in these rankings. You have to take into account how good you feel like they are and what they've proven to you, what they've shown to you. And Auburn has to be rewarded for scheduling Washington, playing Washington, and beating a good Washington team. Auburn is number 3. At number 2, also from the SEC, the Georgia Bulldogs. Another incredibly impressive game. By the way, I took Georgia minus 10. Covered that one nicely. Also, my UCLA plus 30 bet came home nicely. Georgia looked good in the game. Everybody said had ripe upset potential. South Carolina talked them up. Georgia rolled them. Georgia, number 2. And the number 1 team in the country is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Still unproven, but good. Can't doubt what Tua's doing with those teammates and that coach. That's your top 5 college football teams in the country. Sandy, you have been holding for, I believe, 2 hours. You deserve
2.5.
2.5 hours, Sandy. You're on the Will Cain Show.
Well, my question is, why is all of ESPN and all ESPN analysts,
Sandy, you are already wonderful.
Not giving the respect?
I love you, but you got to turn down your TV. You doing it right now? Thank you.
Yeah.
I could hear myself echo in the background. 5 seconds.
All right, my question is,
go
why does all ESPN only give the Redskins like a 20-second clip of the highlights every week?
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, you're going to show the Dallas Cowboys over my Redskins. Plus, why ain't anybody talking about Alex Smith right now and the job that he's doing of the Redskins right now?
All right. You want to know the short answer? Bias.
Yeah.
Bias. Everybody's against you. Everybody's against the Redskins. It works as an entire company. Now, how does a guy named Sandy from Arkansas become a Redskins fan? You answer me. You riddle me that, Sandy.
Okay, well, I was born in North Carolina, and my very first game that I ever watched was the Cowboys and the Redskins back in
Why didn't you pick the Cowboys?
Because I don't like that star. Plus, I got 1/3 Cherokee Indian in me.
That's kind of fascinating. I'm always told that that's an offensive name, though. And I've seen the statistics that say that most Native Americans, actually, the Redskins is their favorite team. You're telling me that's why?
Yes.
Fascinating.
It's not offensive to me.
Well, Sandy, I have today said Alex Smith is a good quarterback. He's underrated. He's above average, and he's going to be good with the Washington Redskins. And that team is probably going to rise to the level of 8-8 this year. There is your Washington Redskins analysis today on the Will Cain Show. Coming up next, why don't more teams act like the Rams? Why don't more teams go all in when it's their window? It's the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. 2 rules in professional football and college football that have to be changed. In just a moment on the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. The show is presented by Progressive Insurance. Small business protection just got easier. With more than 30 coverage options available, Progressive has you covered. More at progressivecommercial.com. Today is September 11th, 2018. It's 17 years after that horrible morning, that horrible day that changed our nation and brought us together as one. September 11th should always be remembered. September 11th should never be forgotten. And I want to share with you a fascinating little detail, a fascinating little note that I found today in just reading a few things about that day. We often see images of September 11th and seeing survivors escape through the downtown streets of Manhattan, covered in soot, smoke, running uptown away from the falling towers. What we don't often see images of, what we often don't hear about, and quite honestly, I wasn't aware of, was the 500,000 people who were evacuated from Lower Manhattan on boats. It was one of the biggest boat rescues. Correction, it was the biggest boat rescue in history. More people were moved to safety. More people were moved in those hours than were moved in the infamous moments that were memorialized in a wonderful Hollywood movie this year, Dunkirk. If you saw that movie by Christopher Nolan, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, go see it. It's about the entire British Army stranded on the northern shores of France, surrounded by the Nazi troops closing in on them. And through military and civilian seagoing vessels, evacuating the entire British Army back to the shores of England. It's an amazing feat of logistics and humanity, and it's an amazing movie. More people were evacuated and moved by sea. More people were evacuated and moved by boat on September 11th in Lower Manhattan, in New York City, than in Dunkirk. Just a fascinating little detail, some 17 years later, that we're still learning about. That awful day, but that provides so many little moments of hope and pride for Americans. The Will Cain Show is presented by Progressive Insurance. I have two rules that I would like to see changed. In fact, that we must see changed in professional and college football. And the reason I say both of those realms is because they were on display in both college and professional football. First, in professional football, roughing the passer is going to be a problem this year. It is absurd what is expected of defenders. And we've been talking about it throughout the preseason, but in week one, we saw the cost. Myles Garrett, who was an absolute terror for the Cleveland Browns, was called for falling on Ben Roethlisberger. It was a bad call. Carlos Dunlap did everything he could to avoid falling with all of his body weight on Andrew Luck. But Dunlap was called for roughing the passer because he landed on Andrew Luck. These guys try, as they're bearing down, about to get a sack, see the quarterback deliver the ball, rear up, as you told me about this, Cerruti, like, big body, hands in the air like a bear, cover as much ground as you can. At that point, you're airborne. It's impossible. You're going to land in the direction you're headed, which is towards the quarterback. You're going to land on him. You cannot shift in midair in split second to avoid that call. And in the Cowboys-Panthers game, DeMarcus Lawrence was called for roughing the passer when he was blocked to the ground, but as he's falling, he wraps up around Cam Newton's ankles. You can't hit the quarterback low. You can't hit the quarterback high. You can't hit him below the knee. You can't hit him in the shoulders or the helmet. You can't fall on him. You can't drive him into the ground. We are not far, and I'm dead serious about this, we are not far from putting a red penny on the quarterback and saying, you can't touch. And if that's the case, what is a guy like Khalil Mack worth? If you can't touch the quarterback, if we're headed down that road, what do you give in trade or contract to a guy who changes the game by doing just that? This roughing the passer trend and these calls have to be changed. And however bad that is, the only one worse was on display in college football on Saturday night. As Texas A&M played Clemson and A&M embarked upon a comeback, they once again saw the atrocious rule invoked of fumbling through the end zone. Explain to me why this rule exists. Why is a team penalized so harshly for something they would not on any other yard line of the field? If you fumble at the 25 and your fumble goes out of bounds, the offense retains the ball right where it went out of bounds. But if you fumble on the half-yard line and the fumble goes forward in the slightest bit across the goal line, it's a turnover. It is entirely too harsh. The ball was turned over for Clemson. Texas A&M did eventually score, but failed on a 2-point conversion. But if that call had not been made, perhaps Texas A&M had 2 scoring drives. Perhaps Clemson goes down. We'll never know. But explain to me why you have to have that harsh of penalty for that innocuous of transgression. Why is fumbling through the end zone such a big deal? Why should it be penalized so harshly? Explain that to me. Please take me behind the curtain. Tell me why that's the way it should be. Can you, Cerruti?
What would you propose the solution be?
I would
At the spot?
I would propose that the offense retains the ball on the 1 yard line.
See,
That's what I would suggest.
I would propose they get it at the 20. There needs to be some sort of penalty for the offense for fumbling into the end zone, no?
But it's just, I'm willing to settle on yours, but I don't think it's right. I think get it at the 1 because anywhere else on the field, you get it pretty much where it goes out of bounds. Why at that moment, in that spot, you have to be backed up 20 yards?
Because it's not out of bounds. It's out of the back of the end zone. It's not the same thing.
Well,
so I think there needs to be some sort of advantage for the defense of not, if you knock a ball out and it goes out in the end zone, there needs to be some sort of advantage for the defense in that way because they're usually part of the cause of the fumble, right?
Yeah, but it's not even out of the back. It's
basically
anywhere in the end zone.
It's basically a get out of jail free card for the offense if they fumble.
No. I mean, they don't get to score. You can't score by forwarding it fumbling forward. I would take yours. I would take putting it at the 20. But turnover? Please change these two rules. All right. Spain and Fitz